Victor Malone didn't think of himself as the sort of man who got riled up over a patch of concrete. He liked order, sure. He liked lines straight, corners square, hedges trimmed with a neatness that made his mother's voice ring in his head. You can always tell how a man lives by his lawn. But he wasn't obsessive. Not yet. He'd worked too hard for this quiet corner lot in Mon, Georgia. The realtor's listing called it, charming, peaceful suburban oasis, a 2-car driveway, a big oak that dropped leaves like confetti in fall, a small porch that begged for a rocking chair and Sunday morning coffee. It was why he'd left the chaos of Atlanta behind. Why he'd traded late-night meetings and an apartment view for fresh-cut grass and neighborhood cookouts. Or so he'd hoped. It was the second Saturday in April when Victor first realized that peace could be such a fragile thing. He stepped onto the porch barefoot, cradling a mug that said "Number 1 Dad." A gift from his niece, who liked to remind him he'd make a great father if he'd just meet someone already. The sun wasn't even fully awake yet, but the air smelled like honeysuckle and cut grass. It was the kind of morning that made him think, yeah. This is why I moved here. He took one sip before he noticed it, a beige SUV, parked like it owned the space that belonged to him. For a moment, Victor just stood there, one foot on the top step, the other still inside the house, like maybe if he didn't fully commit to stepping outside, this wouldn't be real. He squinted at the SUV's bumper stickers, corny slogans about neighborhood pride and unity, and wondered who in their right mind would park in someone else's driveway in a place where every house came with at least 2 spots of its own. Maybe it was an Amazon driver, he thought. Or a neighbor's visiting relative who got turned around. So he waited. 20 minutes ticked by. His coffee cooled. He leaned against the porch column, eyes drifting to the fence that needed patching, the hedge that was getting too wild. He was a man who liked a list. This wasn't on it. He walked down the steps, barefoot on cold concrete, and circled the SUV. Georgia plates. Same tan paint he'd seen before. He'd passed this SUV once or twice, parked crooked along the curb by the HOA clubhouse. He didn't know her name, but he remembered the woman behind the wheel. Short. Late 50s. Cropped hair the color of salt and pepper. Always with a clipboard clutched tight to her side, like it was a badge of authority. She moved with the energy of someone who expected the world to move with her, or out of her way. Victor sighed. This wasn't the welcome wagon he'd pictured when he signed the mortgage papers. The first encounter. He didn't see her again until the next morning. He was trimming the front hedges, earbuds in, half listening to a podcast about stoicism and modern life. How to stay calm in a world that tried to pull you into petty drama. Fitting, he thought later. Out of the corner of his eye, he spotted her marching down the sidewalk at that same clipboard tucked under her arm, aviator sunglasses hiding half her face. He pulled one earbud out. Just ask, he told himself. Keep it polite. Excuse me, ma'am, he called, voice level. She stopped so abruptly that a loose leaf from the clipboard fluttered free. She turned, that tight-lipped HOA smile already on her face. Morning. Can I help you? Victor gestured at his driveway. That your SUV? Beige, Georgia plates. She tilted her head, eyes hidden behind mirrored lenses. Oh, yes. Just left it there for a bit. Usually I park at the end of the block when I do my morning rounds, but the curb was full. Victor nodded slowly. He reminded himself, keep it friendly. You're the new guy. Nobody likes the new guy who complains. Right. It's just, that's my driveway. Her smile didn't budge, but something behind it sharpened. Oh, I know. I figured it wouldn't be an issue, just 20 minutes or so. I do a lot for the HOA, you know. Keeping things tidy. He almost laughed. Keeping things tidy by blocking my driveway. I appreciate that, Victor said instead. I'd just appreciate it if you didn't park there again. Her lips twitched. Not a smile. Not exactly a frown either. Just a flicker of something Victor couldn't quite name. "Sure," she said, voice bright as new paint. "No problem at all." The second time. 3 days later, he came out with his lunch in one hand and his keys in the other, and there it was again. Same SUV. Same angle. Tires kissing the edge of the garage like it had been parked by muscle memory. Victor didn't even bother looking for her this time. He took a photo. Sent it to himself. He backed out so carefully that he nearly scraped his own fender trying not to leave a mark on hers. That evening, he spotted her at the HOA meeting, standing near the snack table, explaining the proper height for garden fences like she'd invented the concept. She didn't glance his way once. But when he got home, there was a flyer taped to his door, lawn maintenance guidelines. His lawn. The same one he'd mowed 2 days ago. Edges maybe half an inch ragged in places. He'd seen worse in this neighborhood. Hell, he'd lived next to worse. It was a game. He knew that now. And Victor Malone hated games. Small battles. Saturday morning came around again. He had a plan this time: park his car right against the garage door. Leave the rest of the driveway empty like bait on a hook. He told himself he was being paranoid, that she wouldn't do it again. But 7:13 a.m. came like clockwork. Beige SUV rolling in, hazard lights blinking, like it was announcing itself to the world, "I park where I please." Victor watched from the porch, coffee in hand, as she stepped out, earbuds in, eyes forward, not a glance at the house she was blocking. Clipboard tucked under her arm like always. He counted to 30. Long enough for her to disappear around the corner. Then he walked over, stood by her car, arms folded, feeling ridiculous for staking out his own driveway like it was Fort Knox. He heard her footsteps before he saw her, a brisk jog back around the bend, earbuds dangling, mouth open like he was the one out of line. "Is something wrong?" she asked, breathless, like she'd just run a mile and not 1 block. Victor stared. "We talked about this." She blinked, wiped her forehead with her sleeve. I know. But the street's packed again. I didn't want to be late for the HOA rounds." He tilted his head. "You realize this is private property, right? Not overflow parking." She tilted hers back, as if mocking him. "Are you serious right now? Would you park in someone else's driveway? On another street?" She didn't answer that. Instead, she brushed past him, muttering about courtesy, about how things used to be before people forgot what community meant. He watched her pull out, tires squealing a little like she wanted him to flinch. He didn't. Advice and resolve. Later that night, Victor called his cousin Terence, who always had a smart mouth and terrible timing, but good advice when you needed it. "You sure you didn't move into one of those Stepford Wives neighborhoods?" Terence asked, laughing so hard he had to repeat himself twice. Victor shook his head. He sat on his porch steps, phone pressed to his ear, the night bugs singing in the oak tree overhead. "I just didn't think I'd have to guard my own damn driveway. Work's already a circus. I just want to cut my grass in peace." Terence didn't miss a beat. "You know what you need? One of those big metal signs. Private property. Tow-away zone. Slap it right where she parks." Victor thought about it. Part of him resisted. He'd grown up in houses where you didn't have to post warnings on your own property. You trusted people to respect a line. But the look on her face, that smug, "What are you going to do about it" look, told him he needed more than trust. He didn't buy the sign that night. But he thought about it. Escalation. Monday came. The sun rose. Victor, half awake, stumbled out the door with a coffee in one hand and his laptop bag in the other, and there it was. The SUV. Crooked again, nose practically pressed to the garage door. It wasn't even an attempt at decency anymore. Just a statement. He didn't bother knocking. He took a picture. Then he sat in his car, engine idling, and texted the HOA's general inbox. Short and simple, repeated violation. Photos attached. No answer came that day. But that night, he ordered a Ring camera. He mounted it above the garage, angle wide enough to catch the entire driveway and the sidewalk beyond. Let her see herself, he thought. A knock on the door. The knock came at 7:30 p.m. Victor knew it was her before he opened the door. She stood on his porch, clipboard traded for a single sheet of paper, eyes cold behind the same mirrored glasses. She didn't bother with pleasantries. "I got your email," she said. Victor leaned against the doorframe. "Did you? You didn't have to go that route. You could have spoken to me directly." "I did." She waved the paper like it was a flag. "This feels aggressive." He folded his arms. "So does parking in my driveway 3 times in 1 week." They stared at each other, two neighbors, 10 feet of space, decades of stubbornness colliding in the gap. "I'll make sure it doesn't happen again," she said finally, voice tight. "I hope we can move past this." "That's all I ever wanted," Victor said. She left without another word. He watched her disappear down the sidewalk, shadows from the street lamp folding around her like a curtain. But Victor knew. People who thought the rules didn't apply to them never stopped with one warning. He sat down at his desk, flipped open a cheap spiral notebook, and wrote the date at the top. He labeled the page, Incidents. Victor Malone had never pictured himself as a man who'd spend his nights reading fine print in a homeowners association handbook. He'd been the sort to pay his dues, wave at the neighbors, mow the lawn on Saturdays, and expect nothing more than quiet weekends. But these days, quiet was starting to feel like an endangered species on Maple Oak Drive. After the third incident, the crooked SUV, the staged knock, the not-so-friendly reminder, Victor realized something: Caroline wasn't just ignoring him. She was testing him. And the neighborhood? The neighborhood was watching. The neon orange notice. It started small, a neon orange card shoved into the crack of his mailbox. Yard appearance infraction. A box checked, uneven edging along walkway. 5 business days to correct. 5 business days or what? He read the paper 3 times, squinting at the cheap ink bleeding through the thin cardstock. Across the street, old Mr. Jennings' front yard looked like a jungle, weeds creeping halfway to the sidewalk. But Victor's grass? Cut 3 days ago. The walkway edges? Not perfect, maybe, but hardly worthy of a neon ticket. He stood there, neon card in hand, eyes drifting up the street to Caroline's house, a tidy little ranch with pastel shutters and a "Proud HOA board member" sign staked in the flower bed like a campaign slogan. He wondered if she'd leaned over his mailbox in the dawn hours, sliding the card in herself with a self-satisfied smirk. Small petty things. A week later, his trash bins were dragged 2 feet into the street, not dumped, not knocked over, just placed exactly wrong, so they blocked the curb. He moved them back with a tight jaw, glancing up and down the street. He wondered if Caroline watched from her living room, blinds parted by a single finger. Then came the chalk, a big, looping arrow drawn on the sidewalk in front of his driveway. Beside it, in wobbly block letters, "Needs power Washington subtle as a brick through a window." Victor laughed when he saw it. Not because it was funny, but because the childishness of it almost made it feel unreal. He left it there for 2 days, watched it fade when the weekend rain rolled through. But the tension didn't wash away with the chalk. If anything, the game was evolving. Notes, calls, and neighbors. The next Sunday, as he hauled a bag of mulch to patch a bare spot under the oak tree, Deshawn caught him at the curb. Deshawn was ex-military, retired 5 years ago, spent half his mornings walking his old Labrador up and down the block. He was the neighborhood's unofficial eyes and ears, and unlike Caroline, he didn't need a clipboard. "You holding up, man?" Deshawn asked, nodding toward the chalk remnants by Victor's mailbox. Victor exhaled. Man, I didn't sign up for HOA games. You ever seen anything like this? Deshawn chuckled. Seen it? Brother, I got a whole folder on my laptop called HOA Clowns. Got photos from when they tried to find me for my mailbox being faded. Same mailbox they approved 5 years ago. Victor cracked a smile for the first time that day. What did you do? Deshawn's grin widened. Repainted it red, white, and blue. Told them to find me for patriotism. They dropped it fast. They stood there a minute, Deshawn's dog snuffling at the grass. You keeping records? Deshawn asked. Victor nodded. Notebook. Dates. Photos. Emails. Deshawn's expression softened. Good. Paper trail's your best friend. Caroline's been pulling this mess for years. You're just her new chew toy. Family advice. That night, Victor called Terrence again. It was pushing midnight but Terrence picked up on the first ring. He was good like that, late nights, early mornings, didn't matter. She left dog poop on the edge of my walkway today, Victor said without preamble. Terrence let out a low whistle. That's bold. You sure it was her? 2 piles. Same spot. Same day she left the orange notice on my door about my walkway appearance. Who else? Bro, Terrence sighed. You know what this is, right? She's marking territory. Victor let out a humorless laugh. Territory? It's a driveway, not the Serengeti. You laugh, but that's exactly what this is. She's telling you, you don't belong. HOA board types. They don't like new blood that doesn't bend. She figures you'll cave. Victor's eyes flicked to the notebook open on his kitchen table. The pages were filling up, incident after incident, time stamps, ring screenshots printed out and stapled. Caroline didn't know it yet, but he wasn't the folding type. The sign. The next day, Victor ordered 2 heavy-duty aluminum signs, private property. Driveway parking by permit only, violators will be towed. He mounted one by the garage light, the other at the mouth of the driveway near the sidewalk, big enough for anyone to see, especially Caroline. It felt petty and right all at once. He half expected an apology. What he got instead was the sign near the sidewalk peeled halfway off the post within 48 hours, the screws yanked out and tossed in the grass. Victor didn't even swear. He just laughed. A soft, exhausted laugh that felt like exhaling months of pent-up politeness. Then he picked up his phone and called the towing company. Asked what paperwork they'd need to enforce a tow. The man on the other end of the line, some guy named Pete, sounded way too cheerful for 7 a.m. You got signage? You got security footage? You're good to go, Pete said. First time's always awkward. Second time satisfying. Victor didn't ask how Pete knew. He just saved the number under Pete, towing. The first tow. It happened on a Thursday morning. The sun wasn't even warm yet when Victor pulled back the curtains and nearly dropped his mug. The beige SUV was back. Not just nosed into the driveway this time, all the way up, blocking his car in, crooked enough that her back tires touched the grass. Victor didn't even bother putting shoes on. He stepped outside, phone in hand, took photos from every angle like a crime scene detective. The Ring camera caught her too, Caroline's familiar quick stride, earbuds in, clipboard tucked under her arm like she was running a neighborhood audit that only she could pass. Victor waited. 30 minutes. An hour. He called Pete. Pete answered on the second ring. You ready? Pete asked, no preamble. Yeah, Victor said, voice steady. I'm done asking. When pride meets tow truck. The tow truck rolled in slow, rumbling like thunder across the quiet street. Victor stood by the mailbox, arms folded, ignoring the neighbor across the street peeking through their blinds. Caroline came jogging back around the corner at the worst possible moment, just in time to see Pete's guy hooking the SUV to the truck's lift. "What do you think you're doing?" she barked, half running, half tripping over her own yard shoes. Victor didn't move. "You're parked on my property." It was 20 minutes. She spun toward the tow truck driver. "Stop. You can't do this." Pete's guy just shrugged. "Ma'am, he's the property owner. Signs are posted." He called it in. Caroline wheeled on Victor. "This is harassment. I'll report you. I'll take this to the board." Victor didn't raise his voice. Didn't even flinch. Already did. With photos. With timestamps. With video. She stared at him like she'd never really seen him before. Then she stomped to the SUV, banging on the driver's side window as if the vehicle could unhook itself out of loyalty. Pete's guy didn't react. He clicked the final chain, waved at Victor, and rolled the whole spectacle off the driveway. Caroline's voice cracked as the truck rumbled away, part fury, part embarrassment, all disbelief. Victor watched her standing alone in the street, fists clenched at her sides, the clipboard hanging loose by its string. For a moment, she looked small, just a person. Not the HOA. Not a bully. Just a woman who'd pushed too far and finally hit something immovable. The viral spiral. Victor didn't post the video. But someone did. Deshawn's doorbell cam caught the entire scene, Caroline shrieking at the tow truck, Victor calm and unbothered, the whole neighborhood looking on through cracked blinds and peeking curtains. It hit the neighborhood app first. Then Facebook. Then some local suburban drama page on TikTok that loved petty HOA wars. Victor's phone buzzed for hours with pings. People forwarding him the clip with captions like, "Finally, someone stands up to her, and respect." Terrence texted him at midnight, "Bro. You're viral. Don't read the comments." Actually, do read the comments. Victor read them anyway. And when he turned off his phone, he felt something he hadn't felt in weeks, the slightest crack of peace. Not victory. Just relief. But some people don't learn. For days later, the SUV was back.